All right.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks, Sam. Just a quick question. Which room are you guys in this evening?
Science 37, but
Oh,
actually there are no official students in the class in this room. They're all just tuning in online right now, but
okay.
usually a few will wander in later.
Okay. Well, anyway, nice to virtually meet everyone, and look forward to someday joining you back in S37 again. So I'm happy to give this quick presentation. I have about, I think, 16 slides or so to share, just briefly to give a quick overview of some of the things we're working on at City College that are related to the material that you have been studying and researching. So we'll have plenty of time for questions you can ask as we go along as well. And what I first wanted to do is just share with you the partners that we have to work with. So City College, as you know, obviously we're part of the city and county, and one of the few community colleges that's actually really integrated closely with the local city, where a lot of us are city employees, for example. But in any case, they've done a fantastic job of creating now the Office of Cybersecurity, which is like a formal department. It wasn't always that way. Relatively recently, that the CISO Michael Maxman took over, and he's had to round up, the 50 odd city departments that don't necessarily work together or like each other or follow anybody's direction. But anyway, he's done a great job of getting everyone working together. They built a great team. They have a lot of tools that they make available to us, and we're really happy to be a part of that. We're also part of of course, the community college system. They're a little bit further behind, but now they have ramped up. They have a CISO as well, Amir Khan, and they have a number of different initiatives that are underway across all the community colleges. There's about what they call 72 districts. Some districts have more than one college, but I think there's a total of 115 community colleges. So that's quite a big group of a lot of students involved, a lot of faculty. So they're kind of limited, I guess, in what they can accomplish across such a big scale. And then we have contracted with a company called Oculus IT for sysadmin services and other things. And they are providing a security operations center for us. So that's been something that has been very helpful. They're monitoring things in real time and providing us information with respect to our overall environment. So important to note, though, City College does not have an information security officer. I'm not the information security officer. I have too many other job descriptions. I'm the network manager, telecom manager, identity manager, all those fun things. And you'll see some of the scale of the infrastructure that we have on the next slide here. So this is what we are all dealing with, myself and my coworkers within the ITS department. This is across the city. So we have, at least 10 major buildings on the Ocean campus. We've got, I think now 6 major centers around the city as well. Chinatown is a huge building. Mission, John Adams, downtown are all very significant in terms of infrastructure and the support needs. So just at the very top, though, there might even be more than 50,000 active student accounts. So you are probably aware that you remain a student, an active student, for 2 years. If you don't take a class within 2 years, you have to reapply. So I'm just thinking that we have, what quantity of students do we have that are within that 2-year window? My guess is 50,000, but could be more. We have a lot of part-time students, a lot of non-credit students. So you can just kind of see the scale of the computers too, at least 4,000 or so. Hard to count. I can't do a scan when they're turned off. Some have been turned off for 3 years, so we don't quite know exactly how many. And you kind of see, kind of in descending order there, just the quantity of overall systems that we need to secure is one goal. But obviously, the main thing people ask us is just keep everything running. Hey, it's like my printer doesn't work, or I need a new printer, or I need a new laptop, or I want more Wi-Fi, or what. Nobody's ever asking us, hardly, very rarely, to do anything related to information security. And so it's all about just keep things working, keep things running. And, we do the best we can to kind of incorporate some security features in the background. But this is the environment, the challenges that we have to deal with. So again, let me know if so far so good. If you have any questions, comments, Sam, just clarify you can hear me okay, and this sounds reasonable.
Yeah, sounds good. Anybody can
All right.
chime in if they want to.
Okay, so there'll be time as well when we get through this, but what I wanted to do is I took a quick look at the CISSP exam, and you have the different domains, and I'm going to just do a few examples of matching things up. I guess the very first thing on the list you saw, those 50,000 student accounts and over 3,000 employee accounts. I mean, right away, that's domain number 5, identity and access management, and it is not easy. We have a grand total of 1 rockstar engineer that keeps that system running, but it's constant, provisioning accounts, bringing in applications from the CCC Apply, which is the state-sponsored application process, bringing them integrated into our system, giving them an account number, getting them to log in the first time, getting them to pick security questions, et cetera, et cetera. Figuring out why somebody can't log in for whatever reason. It's, again, the scale we're at, it's just an immense undertaking, and not exactly glamorous, but really critical in any organization. The second thing I want to show is an example of security and risk management. This is kind of one of the more interesting aspects of employment at City College. We are in the process of building 3 new buildings that you might be aware of. Across the street of Kalo right now is the STEAM building that's under construction. Right next to it is going to be the Diego Rivera Theater, which will look like this. Pretty good from one side. You can see the mural and the grand lobby. Coming from the other direction, it's not going to be quite as appealing. But this is going to be between, on the left now is the MUB building, and on the right, as I mentioned, is the STEAM building. So we're going to be losing a bit of parking, unfortunately. But in any case, the challenge here is this mural that is world-renowned and a fantastic work of art. I don't know if you've seen it down at the MoMA downtown. It's going to be there for another year. I encourage you to go see it. It's roughly 25 feet high and 75 feet wide, and needs to be protected, needs to be secured, needs to be insured. So there's a large risk management component to protecting a valuable asset like that. And then, we need to put in surveillance cameras. I don't know what kind of glass this is that they're planning to use, but I was recently involved in some meetings where we're talking about, the alarm systems, like I said, surveillance cameras, both in this lobby and the rest of the building. And, it's tricky because in classrooms, sure, you put in all kinds of data jacks and you mount things on the wall and all that fun stuff. But, in a lobby like this, things are going to have to be integrated really closely into the overall environment. Same with the auditorium in the background. We can't just hang an access point on the wall and hope for the best. So anyway, this is something that's interesting that's underway. The 3rd building that we're working on is called the Student Success Center, where Condon Hall is currently located. We're in the process of trying to find alternate spaces for the people that are in Condon Hall. Then that building will be demolished and the new Student Success Center will be built. So groundbreaking on this one, the DRT is still probably a year away, and then it'll be maybe a 2 to 3 year construction process. So the mural, once the mural leaves the Museum of Modern Art at the end of this year, I believe it's going to be going into storage somewhere on the Ocean campus. So it won't be visible until it's then reinstalled in this building. So that's I think the latest update on that project. This is something that you might be really interested in as well, as an example of communications and network security. And this is for our Wi-Fi system. So you saw on a previous slide, we have 400 access points around the college. We try to cover everywhere: hallways, classrooms, lobbies, cafeteria, the library. It's a major challenge to keep the infrastructure upgraded, and even just mounting things on walls. It's not easy how do you mount an access point on a concrete wall? Anyway, so we really had no way, though, with the scale we're at. You can see about 20,000 unique clients per month. This is the latest statistic that I have from our dashboard. There's no way we can force 20,000 people to authenticate in any way. We've tried. It's who knows how many of them are actually City College students. Many of them might be interested in being a student. They want to get on the Wi-Fi and maybe do some more research. So of course we want them. We're not going to, prevent people from getting on the Wi-Fi simply because they're not already a student, or even if they are a student, again, there's all those glitches with the accounts and who knows if it's really working or not. And we just have no way to support what might be, or people just coming to visit, like I said, for a basketball game or, anything. So we just realized that, over the past 10 years that it's impossible for us. Other colleges, maybe they find a way to do it. They're probably not directly in an urban environment like we are. So in any case, what we've come up with is every 90 days, everyone has to agree to abide by our computer usage policy. And when you click on the continued internet, it actually takes you to the computer usage policy. You might have noticed this. And then from there, you're really on anywhere that you want to go on the web. So we feel that this, though, is an acceptance, an acknowledgement on the part of our anybody who wants to use our Wi-Fi network, an acknowledgement for our own, maybe not the term insurance policy, but our own validation that we are doing our best to adhere to pretty some guidelines. So people agree to that, and then we allow them on to the network. So I see you have a question here in chat.
No, just tell Link they can use credit.
Oh, okay. All right, thanks. Oh, wait. Oh, there was one though. Something about the does Wi-Fi have procedures against ARP spoofing? Well, let me see if I can answer that with the next slide. So we do have some layers of isolation. Now, I don't know every type of malicious activity. I can't say that every type of malicious activity would be prevented. But what we do have is within the Wi-Fi dashboard, this is from Cisco Meraki, is the vendor we use. We have a basic layer 3 firewall that we use to restrict access to only, public-facing type systems, and maybe a few things that are internal with respect to registration systems and things like that. But for the most part, it's simply just providing internet access. And then we also have our next generation firewall, Palo Alto Networks firewall, that has various other types of services, threat protection and various other things like that, incorporated into that particular environment. And that's been with us, we've had that for quite some time. So we can observe both, traffic inbound and outbound, and control traffic in and out through these mechanisms. But again, we're really just trying to keep it, simplified as much as we can, provide people quick and easy access. And it's mainly, we get questions about the coverage, the signal's weak, or it seems slow today, or something like that. So most of our challenges are placement of the access points. Since we've returned from the shelter in place, there's clusters of students have shifted. Out Batman Hall used to be one of the busiest places. Now it isn't. A lot of classes are offered in Cloud Hall or over in the Student Health Building. So we've had to kind of adjust accordingly. But this is what we found to be, the right, at least for now, the right combination of security and convenience. Well, yeah. So the procedures, the basic and the layer 3, that's all the capability that this particular firewall has, is just some basically an access list, ports and addresses. But the next generation firewall has a lot of features. In fact, we find things like outbound, some command and control sometimes, that's emanating from a Wi-Fi client, and our firewall blocks it so it doesn't communicate with a command and control server. But once you leave our environment, it probably does. I would imagine it would. And we don't know who it is. We can see an IP address. It's in a private address range. We don't really know who is behind each specific stream of traffic. We can sometimes we can find MAC addresses, but we have no idea, who a MAC address belongs to. I mean, maybe I guess at some point we could, archive that, and that could be some form of evidence. But the IPs are dynamic assignments, and MAC addresses can be changed. So we really just, we do have some restrictions in place that might seem a little bit more, or maybe more than absolute minimum. But again, it's simply because we are providing that open level of access. Something else I want to share then, a few phishing emails. They're getting better, unfortunately. This is an example from 2018 that was not necessarily very good. You can see, urgent action, mailbox suspension, validate mailbox here. That looks like some kind of a weird site. We know it's in France, but most people have no idea where it is. But anybody, that looks weird. So this wasn't all that, great, but people clicked on it. So what we have to do is figure out, okay, well, what happens after somebody clicks on it? What did they see? And hence, what can we tell them? And what can we do in terms of our, investigation here? So I see we have another question. Okay. All right, you're welcome. So this is, a bit of a challenge. So what I did and what I've done in the past is, instead of opening this up on my laptop, we hover over it. So I'll show you an example of that. But I opened it up on my mobile device, and that way I could kind of see what was behind that link. In other words, again, I want to know what did the people who immediately clicked on it, what did they see? And then what can we do to try to mitigate any impact? So we don't know what they saw until we do it ourselves. So this is what I saw, a very, relatively realistic looking Office 365 login. Note how the URL totally changed though. We went from lstu.fr. And again, what I noticed, this was something else was kind of interesting, that it gets redirected to somewhere different with a desktop versus a mobile device. I don't have the screenshot here of the desktop redirect, but when I open it on my mobile device, it went here. So that added yet another dilemma. I was like, okay, well, how do I now, I want to understand what people saw and say, if you submitted your credentials, please change your password immediately. So we have to understand what's behind there. Obviously, we can do our basic analysis, and we can see, okay, well, obviously that URL doesn't look like it's in the United States, and of course not, it's .ru. We can do an NS lookup. We can get the IP addresses. We can do IP location, and we can find that, in fact, this particular IP was at that point in time in Moscow or thereabouts. So this isn't, that's crude. It's not disguised very well from a, technical analysis, but certainly from one member of our, community, one of our employees, faculty or employee, this looks fine. Oh, sure, I better log in. So they immediately provide their, Office 365 credentials. Now, whether this sender knew we use Office 365 or just took a guess because it's so widely used, that could be the case too. So that was, 5 years ago. Unfortunately, things are getting better. So here's something from last year. So this is what it looked like. Again, it looks still a little bit strange. But again, to people who, get emails all the time, some phishing, some not. In the forward, the box that's been grayed out was the name of an important person at City College that people would have responded to. It's like, oh, they sent me a file using OneDrive, an assessment form, and they want me to, provide some input apparently. So I better do that. So this is coming. You can see the URL. We don't recognize the name of the individual, but from SharePoint Online. Looks, if somebody were to even give that a brief thought, they would say, okay, well, that looks, pretty good. Well, this is interesting though, when we start to analyze it. Hovering over the open button, I can find that there's this link, a safe links, Outlook, et cetera, et cetera. So whatever that link is, it's safe. It got through the Outlook, protection, and it looks to be like a valid URL that got through that level of screening. Now it says here, Mesquite is dorg-my.sharepoint. Okay, that sounds a bit strange, but again, most people are not going to hover over a button. In fact, if you try to teach a group of people how to hover over the open button, 50% of them will immediately click on it. And you try to teach them yet again, and maybe 40% will click on it. So I think that's a never-ending struggle to try to teach, 1,000 people how to hover anyway without clicking. But in any case, when we look at that, it looks somewhat, reasonable. We can do NS lookup on that URL, and we see the IP addresses, and we find that those are actually Microsoft's, IP addresses. So that, from our quick analysis, that looks pretty normal. So this was kind of strange, and I didn't know quite what to make of it completely. And then I showed it to one of my colleagues, and he says, "Oh, well, maybe it means .org, because dorg doesn't, Mesquite is dorg. We didn't know quite what that meant, but .org was worth a try." Well, sure enough, mesquiteisd.org is a school, the URL for a school in Texas, I think a school district just outside of Dallas. And so then that makes a little bit more sense when we now look at that, official business name, basically, and we compare it to that rather suspicious looking URL. We see that, sure, they're probably using SharePoint, and it's probably a compromised SharePoint account. So we have a question here. Lucky the first and second phishing on the demo haven't used browser in browser. Okay, that's a good point. Let's see if I have anything else on this one. No, but the other thing that I did with this, is looking at all the different log files and things like that. And it really isn't anything that we can easily, distinguish. This is just all legitimate traffic. I think the other thing is that we wouldn't necessarily know who clicked on it. In other words, if someone clicks on this and it goes to a really strange or unique IP address, then we know exactly who clicked on it. We can look through our firewall logs and pretty quickly tell who clicked on it. But now with this, there's legitimate traffic constantly to legitimate Microsoft IPs. So we kind of lose that ability, unfortunately, to isolate what and who, how extensive this actually was. But one thing we can do, though, just sorry, I'm going back and forth here. One thing we immediately do in situations like this is we remove it from everyone's mailbox. So if our, email administrator becomes aware of it, we usually notify them right away. They can then go into the council and remove this from mailboxes en masse. But there's going to be some people that might have responded to it, quickly. So. Okay, so what is all this about? Well, so there's interesting chart here. I'm sure you're familiar with the personally identifiable information and some of the different categories of that, and we'll talk specifically about what it means in California. But I kind of like this particular chart because it's pretty eye-opening when we start to think about all the different information that's been put into various places, over the decades, and that we end up with a, we have roles in society that are directly related to the amount of online information that we have. So each of us ends up with the pie chart. It's really hard to keep track of all this. If you try now to minimize your online presence, it's almost too late to try to start removing these things. You could do some, but it's really hard to get data out of wherever it may be. And then it's frustrating too, even when you go to a doctor's office or something, the first thing they do is hand you a clipboard and a piece of paper and a pen and ask you to write down all kinds of personal information. So now it's on a piece of paper, and now maybe uploaded into yet another database or scanned in or something like that. So it's really a big challenge, as you are probably well aware. So this is then something that you may be familiar with, the California definition of personal information. So first name and first initial or last name in combination with social security number, driver's license number, credit card. And so basically there's some really interesting things when you read into this, and this will show you, this is a state law from about 20 years ago. When you read into this, whether there are the data elements are or are not encrypted, companies have taken a really cautious approach or conservative approach in that they're reporting many data breaches. And in fact, I'm just going to bounce out for a minute and make sure that you are aware of the California breach database that is hosted by our Attorney General. And Google's not wanting to cooperate here today. Or Firefox, I should say. Just a moment. Yeah. Okay. So this is where organizations go to report their data breaches. Rob Bonta is our Attorney General. There's all these California civil codes that require agencies and businesses to report their data breaches. And so they might cluster these a little bit. You can see a bunch of them were reported on the February 17th of this year. You're probably familiar with a lot of these. One thing that's interesting is, okay, well, why with this data breach was June 28th, why did they report it on, February 17th? But in any case, a lot of these organizations are reporting these events. They're not necessarily going to provide a lot of tech detail. All you'll see is the basically the notification letter that they given out to people. But what I think is happening, again, they're just going to do the bare minimum. Something happened in June. They did an investigation into October, and now here it is, February that's reporting it. So a few challenges there. Also interesting to note that they are based in Portland, Oregon. But if they have customers or clients or any business associates in California, they have to notify them via this type of mechanism. So you're probably aware of all that. But what's happened then is many organizations, because of that reporting requirement, whether this data has actually been has actually been breached or stolen or not. I think many organizations, if they notice anything suspicious, they're being overly cautious and they are reporting it. So it may not have actually met this strict criteria that's here, but they are nonetheless, reporting it. So quite a few, into the hundreds of data breaches per year are reported in California. So this is something you're probably aware of, Senate Bill SB 1386. That was approved by the governor in September 2002. And that's what I grabbed that other previous screenshot from. because this is the formal legislation that defines personally identifiable information in California, and was basically, as far as I know, we were the first state in order to that implemented something like this. So anyway, what I've highlighted is something that caught my eye when I finally, went to look at the actual legal document. So SB 1386, we know that Senate Bill 1386, and it says peace. And so I've thought about why does it say peace? And I thought about it a little more. And so now I'm going to just give you a chance to think about it. I mean, that's my, oops, I jumped too soon. But why does something like this, have something, this formal document, any idea why it says peace? So I thought that was something interesting, and it took me a while to figure out. And so by now you're probably wondering what it could possibly be. Well, the author of this legislation is Stephen Peace, and he was a member of our both our state assembly and our state senate, and from 1993 until 2002. So by formally having this approved by the governor, it was probably a couple years worth of work getting it through committees, various drafts, and looks like he was the author of this legislation, and so this was kind of something that he completed right before he left his state office. Something else to point out: a very talented individual, because apparently he also has film credits for the whole Killer Tomatoes series, the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, etc. He's the actor, producer, and writer. And so I believe that was something that he did prior to taking office in our California. So this then is an assignment for you to go watch the actual Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Highly recommended. It is available out on YouTube. So anyway, I just want to give credit, because there's just certain people that make a big impact in our field, kind of a big milestones, if you will. And so this, I don't know if anybody else was aware of Mr. Peace, but I think that for that, at least for that year, I don't know anyone else who might have made a as significant of a contribution to our privacy and information security in California. So with that, I'll just conclude and ask, see if you have any questions on, what we are working on, or what we're doing, or what we have, how we've structured our college environment to deal with information security challenges.
I've got one question. What about that Palo Alto firewalls class? You're not teaching it this semester, right?
Oh yeah, actually I am. Well, it's I teach at Foothill,
Yeah.
and we're on a quarter basis there.
Oh.
And so we're just kind of winding down that class. Well, I shouldn't say winding down. We're in week 8 out of 12.
Okay.
Next year, it's probably going to be offered in the fall.
Okay.
Is my thought. So right now it's been every winter, because we do a series of 53 A, B, C, and D. But yeah, I can share the syllabus with you now if you'd like to see that.
Yeah, I've got students interested in taking it.
Okay. Give me just a minute. I'll pull it up.
I couldn't find it on the website, but
I don't know. We submit our syllabuses formally.
Oh, it's probably there somewhere. It's just hard to navigate.
Well, but I don't know. I haven't actually seen it. Bear with me here. I'm just about there. I haven't actually seen it, so I don't know if it's really there or not. And yeah, I can share other details of the course if you want.
Mm-hmm. There we go.
Yep. So this is my evening and weekend activity. I've been teaching at Foothill College for about 8 years. And so we do, a live Zoom session one night a week. And even when I was teaching on campus, I would be on Zoom just like you are now. And there were just over the years fewer and fewer people that showed up, in the actual classroom. So, but anyway, we have I like to have different types of materials, the reading materials, hands-on labs, and discussions. So I've assigned a textbook called Zero Trust Networks from O'Reilly Media. That's just kind of a overall model, I guess, of zero trust that we're trying to understand and see how that applies into practical hands-on environment with firewalls. We have administrator guides because we are using Palo Alto Networks virtual firewalls. There's a partnership between Palo Alto and a group called the Network Development Group. And so those labs are there. I'm sure someone's paying for them somewhere, but we at Foothill and at City College wouldn't necessarily have to pay for access to the labs. Well, so the administrator guides are available, but these are kind of our course objectives. Again, the class is called Firewalls and Threat Management. So we are specifically tasked with these objectives. And, I try to incorporate different, solutions, strategies, different models. Firewalls are great. They do a lot of things that are very beneficial. There may be some limitations to them. And they have to be configured properly. They have to be monitored pretty much constantly. And so this is what we end up with as a course outline. So just kind of typical, like I said, we're here in week 8. So each week we just have a reading assignment. There happens to be, fits well with the quarter basis. So there's 10 chapters in 12 weeks. We do just basic labs. I think there's about 14 labs total. And then we have a discussion about, next gen firewalls or zero trust architecture or something interesting called the Applepedia, which is unique to Palo Alto, and that they've identified about 4,000 different applications, and that's how we configure the firewall. A week or two ago, we talked about decryption and encryption. So that's SSL decryption. So within a firewall, a lot of traffic is coming in, SSL. We don't know what it is other than being SSL. So there is a potential need for performing some level of decryption on a within an enterprise or in and out of an enterprise in order to protect the resources, because so much of the malicious activity is just disguised as SSL. You can't quite see it. Pros and cons of that, but so that's something we did in a lab environment. And then we'll just go through chapter week and discussions. We have another week coming up where we'll be using 2 labs. We'll set up Global Protect is the basically the client type of VPN access. So your firewall becomes like a VPN concentrator and allows you to connect securely from outside. You're running a local client on your desktop. And then also that same week, we're going to work on a site-to-site VPN. So that's like an IPsec tunnel that would connect, one office environment or one business environment into another business environment via the internet. So that's, just kind of a quick summary. Like I said, we're changing, I believe, now from every winter to every fall that we offer this particular class.
There's a couple of questions coming in on the Twitch. This asking if there's a recommended book, and I see you've scrolled back. If you scroll up a little, you see the book. Yeah, Zero Trust Networks.
Yeah, that's the one we've been using, and but also, these are the administrator guides that are very detailed. Anybody can download those, and this is what you'd use if you just want to administer or configure a firewall. But this textbook is what you use if you got to understand the big picture. What are we trying to accomplish? Where's our perimeter? what's the underlying function of the, how do technologies actually work? How does TLS actually work?
Yeah. There's another question saying, did you work at Mandiant FireEye?
No, but
Yeah.
wish I had that on my resume. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Does this lead to Palo Alto certification, this class?
Well, they keep changing things around a little bit on the actual certification. This definitely gets you in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah, same thing happened to my spunk class. They keep changing the cert.
Yeah, there's now the PCNSE. There's different things. It's hard to tell. There's so many certs now. I
Yeah.
think there is a very entry level or beginner level type of cert that's available, at least last I checked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this will definitely give you hands-on, and it's going to be definitely a good learning process. It's just hard to tell how much preparation students need for various certifications.
Yeah.
Like I said, they change all the time.
Okay. Good. Are there any more questions? I'm not seeing any new ones.
Yeah, I think one thing I would like to share too is CISSA.gov. They just launched a new website, and part of that, they have a really interesting section here about MFA. So they've redesigned this site. They're trying to make it simple. They're trying to reach out to the entire, country and whoever else around the world wants to leverage their resources. But I think this is great what they are doing. We encourage you to listen to the message from Jen Easterly, the director of CISSA. And this is really, it looks very simple and basic to us because we've been working with this stuff. But imagine you have to get however many 100 million people, and all these government agencies and businesses and city and county governments and as many people as you possibly can. Just amazing for this group to be the CISO for the whole country. What a tough job. I'm not sure I'd want that one on my resume or have that. But I would like to just let's see if this shows. This was the contact. I wanted to just see the the leadership. So this is a relatively new organization, actually. I think after the interference in the 2016 election, the U.S. government said, "Hey, look, we need to step up and actually secure the country." And they're starting with infrastructure or election infrastructure security. They have guidelines for city and county governments on how to keep their election process secure. The former director was Chris Krebs, I believe. He stood up to Trump, and Trump fired him, and he said, "I don't care. So what? I don't like you anyway." And so Jen Easterly took over a couple years ago, I think. All in all, I think she's general consensus is she's doing a great job. But again, not a simple task. So very formal type of structure that they have here. People look to be real serious, but again, really think they're doing a great job. Oh, here's Kim, Senior Advisor for Election Security. Thank you, Kim, for helping us with all this. She's been involved in various things. Oh, Cal State Long Beach, and also a certified elections and registration administrator. That's really interesting. So yeah, these are high-powered people here. So anyway, glad they're on our side. And like I said, enjoy this site. They just did a launch. I think it's listed here. Oh, where did I see that? Well, that was last week. They launched this. Oh, here it is. So they spent some months, preparing for this launch. They released it last week. And again, I don't know if you've been following this organization, but lots of great resources, a lot of talented people. And this has been, like I said, I think a big improvement that many of us in this can benefit from. If you recall the Sony hack, remember Sony got hacked or something, by North Korea or somebody like that, and they were all alone. They had no help. There's nobody going to come and help a big company like Sony. Even the other, competitive Hollywood companies, they're certainly not going to go help them. So they had nowhere to turn. Same with all these hospitals and all these people that got ransomware attacks over the years. Well, now we do have this organization that's designed specifically to help us out. What do I think about the CISSP cert and what type of jobs ask for it? Well, there are a lot of jobs, I think, that would be, performing any type of like official information security service such as this. I think also I've seen that there's a requirement on, things like joining the San Francisco cybersecurity team. That might have been something I've seen there. I think I just see it in quite a few places. It's very well respected. And I think it's going to be generally positions that are more integrated with the business side of an environment as opposed to purely into the technical side. But that's just my quick assumption. And can you please post that link to the Palo Alto docs in the chat? Oh, okay. Let me grab that. Let's see if I can. Pull that out. I'll just give you the, might have to actually go out to it. I'm gonna go out there and grab it. So they are, they being Palo Alto are pretty busy now with, most people managing Palo Alto systems are pretty busy moving or planning to move to release 10 from 9. So let me just copy this while it's coming up. I think I might have just a few too many things open here.
Oh,
there you go. So I download this as a PDF document, which you can grab from somewhere. Somewhere allows you to get it as a PDF. It's about 1,500 pages.
yikes.
Yeah. Well, it works great in that the oh, here it is. That it's the find feature works great. By default, I'm not coming up in my proper Adobe window. But this is a pretty good tool. They've built in pretty good search functions. Setting up basic security policy. It's going to provide you with step-by-step instructions. What I found with these step-by-step instructions, they're all great. If you are reading the right step or the right goal, you can go through, oh, here's step-by-step, and you dive deep into something and you do this and do this, like, oh, wait a minute, that isn't what I wanted to accomplish. So, you have to, step-by-step guides are great if you have the right one. But, with 1,500 pages of step-by-step guides, which one are you working on at any given point in time? It's a challenge, but I think they've done a pretty good job with this. And again, that gives you an example of the scope and scale of setting up a firewall such as this.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's a big thing too with Google and others saying, hey, we don't have a perimeter anymore. We're, they call Beyond Corp or Zero Trust or so what role? The firewalls still have some role, but it was one thing when everybody was in an office and we funneled everything, even at City College, everyone's in all their buildings all over the city. We funneled all the traffic in and out of the central firewall. Well, then all of a sudden, there's nobody in the city anymore in our offices and in classrooms, and now everybody's out somewhere else. So how do we still maintain all that, secure protection for our user community when they're not there anymore? And so a lot of the security companies were able to come up with, VPN solutions, and we implemented more VPN services, but it isn't quite the same. But even still, that's something to consider as well. So yeah, that's one thing that I think is really interesting. What roles, or what are the roles of all the key equipment that you need? You need firewalls, you need log collectors, you need log analysis tools. You still need all these things. You need to be doing vulnerability scanning and things like that. So you still need a lot of tools, no matter what architecture and model you follow. And that's kind of the challenge, I think, at the moment, to find that right balance.
Yeah. All right, Jim, I'm going to stop recording then.